And now let me walk you through the cycle of activities. The cycle can be generated by cycle button, a cycle of activities, but of course the activities themselves, the 31 type for now, they're generated again randomly in the random order. But at least every cycle contains all 31 types of activities, and we have started with image. So here we have some image description and some questions related to this image. What's going on in the artwork, describe the lines in this artwork, and about the eye moving through it, and so on, and about, of course, the choices. So it's very good for not only arts students, but for everyone who needs to describe images and who likes images, art in general, and so on. This is an open domain image as well as all others, so of course no copyright issues. The next will be question, one of the most popular activities, probably the most commonly used, as we see from the statistics. And of course it's about English, whether it's important or not, and of course there are some following phrases that we can use: as to me, without a doubt, I assume, etc, etc. And of course if you have a nice question you can share it with us. It would be really lovely. The next is a TOEFL card, considering that now TOEFL examination is a bit easier and it contains only one independent task, so this is what we added here. And you can even launch spectrogram and just try to talk without any pauses, because if there is a pause then there may be a game over dialogue. For example, you can choose Hurt Me Plenty, which is taken from the video game, and if you make pauses while answering then it may be a bit of a problem, so probably you should not. Otherwise it's a game over and you've got to start again. The next is IELTS cue card, which is very similar, and again we have spectrogram, and again we can choose, for example, Heard Me Plenty. Actually, the higher the level, the smaller pause you can afford, otherwise it's a game over. For example, if I try Nightmare and if I stop with some minor interruptions, it may still be a problem. But anyways, of course, after a minute, because you can consider that usually there's a minute for you, and then you have to try and talk without any pauses, otherwise there's a game over. Let's move on. The next is tongue twister, and you have to pronounce it coherently and quickly as well, and that one is a simple crabby, creepy, creeply, creeping, creeper, but it should be faster. And again, we could add the spectrogram here if you wish. The next is random article. It's mainly from Wikipedia, and it just generates a certain question related to this article. Here it is. And then there is this article which trainee has to skim through and then respond to the question here. The question is, have you ever been worried that your plane might collide with another mid-air? Well, I suppose for those who fear flying, this may not be an ideal article and question to respond, but still, why not? We should somehow combat our fears. Acronym. Well, here we can type a name, for example, let it be Alex, which is my name. Agreement, longanimity, eternity, and xenophilia. Well, certainly I love people from different cultures, indeed, and I suppose it will be for eternity, because we are quite open-minded to different cultures, and partly it's related to our longanimity, but we should all live in agreement, I believe. You can actually start with A, then proceed to the rest, but you can start from the end. It doesn't matter, you can be quite creative about it. The next is predicament, a difficult situation, and you have to explain why you acted in a particular way. You see, you've been arrested for slapping old women, not even women, across the face at the grocery store. Well, we have to explain ourselves, because there should be a reason for this outrageous behavior. Ideogram. Well, as you know, there are usually several hieroglyphs that may form one ideogram. For example, here we have I eat, and it means hungry, and you have to explain why eat plus I equals hungry. Well, I suppose I exist, therefore I eat, and if I don't, then I'm hungry. And also I eat, and what I eat is what I am, and if I eat little, then yes, I'm hungry. But there should be a nice explanation, certainly. Another is random place, and you have to explain what you could do about this particular area. The problem is that sometimes some scripts, they don't load fast enough, and if it happens, you could just restart it, and it should help. For example, here we just clicked on place, and here you go. Seems to be not such a bad place at all, especially considering that there are solar batteries, so it looks fine. But on the other hand, these buildings, they look a little bit, as if they need some renovation, and certainly, look at this here, isn't it beautiful? So you have to propose some ideas what you could do about it in order to attract investment and tourists as well. This is about random place activity. The next is random panorama, as we see. Although, shall I remind you that the tasks are generated in such a way that you don't know what may come next. So here, actually, someone managed to somehow track you, and you have to imagine that you were here, and the question is, what were you doing? Why you decided to go here for the whole weekend, and how you actually got there, how you even got back, and what you were doing. This is what you've got to explain in random panorama activity. Emojis is one of the most complicated tasks. I suppose this is something that a student or a trainee may complete in writing. You're given a theme, and this way it's generated, and it's a psychological thriller. And you have to form a story using these emojis in order to create a thriller. And, well, actually, it looks as if we have some elements which you could technically use. We have a train, we have... moon, we have certainly a lizard, and actually they may serve as symbols, so you don't have to take them literally, these emojis. And then you could just build up a story by combining these elements and creating maybe some additional twists, and certainly the main plot, which can proceed in a linear or non-linear way. And yes, themes, there are so many of them, and they are all generated as well, including emojis. Abstractions is about advanced reasoning, and it's a bit tricky, even in the mother tongue, as students say. We have to combine enslavement and rejection. Well, this is quite simple, because we have to explain why enslavement may lead to rejection and vice versa. What are the cases when enslavement causes rejection or rejection induces enslavement? Some terms may be unclear, as our colleagues say, even for them. So, of course, this is why we have dictionary entries, and you can read the definitions, and then you can try to even give some examples of enslavement and rejection in our experience, in our life. I suppose we have been rejected so many times. It's quite ordinary. And enslavement, well, this is about our COVID situation, I believe. This is certainly enslavement. The next is random story. We have already completed this, and we have to combine certain elements, and we can also launch the spectrogram, trying to connect certain ideas. Air, eclipse, etc. We've done that, but you can try it on your own and see how fast you could try to connect these ideas. Bagger on down the pants, well, that would be simple. Exchange and chupa chups and birthday. Yeah, actually, some people, even of my age, they still prefer some chupa chups on the birthday. Well, and stage worthy, and of course you have to connect number 12 with number 1, of course. The next is, let's take a look what we'll have. Word formation. At first, you are given a particular chart, which is generated. This way we have root pass, and then we have to create a polyptodon with these words. using word formation. This is the example of polyptoton, what it is like. But when I sleep in dreams, they look on thee, and darkly bright and bright in dark directed. Yes, we have pass, so it could be uncompassionate, compassable, incompassionate, encompassing, etc. So a lot of words, and then we have to somehow figure out what words, well, of course, using this table, we can use here. We have, of course, the answers. Here they are. So the next is cycle. Proverb. Again, it may be meaningless, but yet we have to explain. Erring is love. Well, it doesn't even require any additional explanations, yet we know that sometimes we may be mistaken about our feelings, and this leads to erring in love. It's simple, but you don't have to spend a lot of time on each task, although. The next is issue, about some positive things in, when tags don't peel off things easily. Yes, especially, do you remember when you peel off the tag and then afterwards it's all sticky and it's disgusting. Sounds like first world problem, although, but you know, this is still a bit unpleasant. But positive aspects, what could be the positive aspects? Well, for example, if you give it as a present, and if you remove the sticker, then even if it is sticky, then your friend or anyone who you gave the present to may understand that you were considerate enough so as to remove the sticker with the price tag, which is nice. And an additional thing, please, maybe you can guess. If you can, please write in the comments what could be an additional positive aspect to, well, the situation when tags don't peel off things easily. The next is a cat flushing after herself in the toilet. What could be the negative aspect? Well, what could be the negative aspect? You may be depressed because you may think, God, my cat is smarter than I am, that the cat flushes after herself, and I cannot do some very simple things in this life. And flushing after oneself, especially if we talk about enigma, is quite an advanced feature. So this may be a little bit sad on the other hand, right? And by the way, I've received several messages from my students who completed a wonderful random story chain, which is available on Reddit. There I published some nice responses to random story chains, random magnets, etc. And these guys, they're very young, they're 11 and 7 years old. Correspondingly, they have completed some amazing tasks. The next is event. So you are an event manager and a very talented one, and you have to think how to organize a homecoming event in your hometown. At the same time, the theme should be at the office and it should be quite sentimental. There's nothing difficult about making an office event or an office theme that would be sentimental, especially if we refer to the Office TV series, but yet it has to be homecoming. So then this is a dilemma, and you have to be creative enough in order to think of a nice event which would also promote the organization. The poem, the next activity, has to be read in a particular manner. Let's see what poem and in what manner. Converting it into speak simple English as you go. So, for example, the sky is stormy and red. Well, this is simple enough. The wanderer comes from the west. He knocks at the door and dread knocks at the heart in my breast. Wanderer, what is thy quest? Well, of course, you have to maybe convert thy into something and quest into something that any captain or any seaman will understand. The next is a Crowloan word. Well, it's mainly taken from the Latin language, and we have pars pro toto, and you have to use this theme of this, and maybe you've got to Google what pars pro toto means, at least our students have to, and it's totally fine to check what certain words mean, and then you've got to somehow connect the ideas with each other so that they would form this theme, and the theme is the meaning of this particular expression that is given vertically. This is acrylone word, one of the most complicated tasks, although you've heard this before when I spoke about abstractions in particular, but still it's worth trying for sure. And sometimes certain stories, they are absolutely amazing because connecting certain points, protest, and well, this would be easy, but overabundance and then with tragedy and philosophy with attachment, that would be interesting, especially that you have to still keep pars pro toto in mind and also know what this means. Certainly it can enlarge our vocabulary. Phobia. Two phobias at the same time. Something happened and now here you go. You have two phobias. This is thermophobia and, well, is it, well, I guess nigophobia, a fear of choking or being smothered. Well, I haven't heard of this before, but, well, apparently you had some heat issue and maybe the heat in some sauna probably was choking you, and then you of course have to think how to treat these phobias. Well, never to go to saunas again. And what they have in common? Well, hot temperature, and then we may feel as if we are we have some well, troubles with breathing, and eventually we think as if we're choking. Anyways, there are some more complicated phobias, and here we go. We have image again, and usually it's a cycle of activities, but sometimes there are certain repetitions, but quite infrequently. And here you have to somehow explain what may be similar between you and between a cookie jar. Yes, well, it contains cookies, it may be transparent, it may not, but usually they are transparent. So if you have some positive points, if you have some advantages, then your transparency, if you're transparent enough in terms of revealing your qualities, your feelings, your positive features, then you are quite a cookie jar. But you have to give 3 characteristics and I named only 1, so think of some additional ones. Then we have simile, a new simile to be created. When I forgot to bring a birthday present, I felt as stupid as, and then as who? Well, maybe as our former boss who had some troubles with, and then you have to explain what kind of troubles and just make it on the go. Advert, well, actually you've got to advertise something, you don't know what it is. You may explain whether it's good for friends as a present, whether you can take it on board or not. And after your brilliant, well, we may call it pep talk or sales talk, you have to take a look what it is, and imagine you say that you can actually take it on the plane, you can give it to your girlfriend, and then here we go. So it may eventually lead to quite a humorous situation, especially if your host is asking certain questions. We remember, well, the random phobia activity, and this is the opposite, randomania. We have astraconomania and cresomania, and we have to explain again what they have in common and how we got it, and of course how can we benefit from the synergy of these manias. The next is random statement. Well, we have a cycle of viewpoints and we have some questions. It will be generated here. Happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing. It's a quotation. We have to approach the statement from different viewpoints. And we can use these expressions. For example, we can say that from a conceptual standpoint, this is indeed quite true, because we have even a popular, well, it's a book, it's a play by Griboyedov. It's called Woe from Wit, and it perfectly illustrates this. Then regarding the, well, educational perspective, usually the more intelligent they are, yes, the more unpleasant things they know about the world, about the future, about the past, etc. As far as that, and then you can just choose any, maybe religious aspect, but, well, I guess it is indeed up to you. The next is magnets. Well, you have seen these activities before. There are so many games related to this. You can actually make it bold for your convenience, and then you can make a new proverb. Yes, so for example, most things please, and then let it be full stop, because really there are so many things that are pleasing, even staying at home during the COVID. A random country. Imagine you have to leave your country and to get a political asylum somewhere. And let's see what country it is, because only one country agreed. It's Mauritania. Well, it's quite a lovely place for sure. Just to remind you where it is, you can briefly skip some information about it. Certainly the architecture is amazing there, and indeed you can learn about culture, about maybe politics, and about the food, etc. And then explain what you could actually do for this country and why they should agree to consider your application for a political asylum. Random profession. Imagine you've been working as a soupologist. Well, it's easy to guess considering that the root is soup, but you have to explain why you love this so much, this profession of yours, why you would never exchange the job for any other, and so on. So as for soupologist, it's easy to guess, but there are some jobs, and of course they are made up, but you still have to explain what exactly you've been doing for quite a while. And then there's a job interview, and you can try to explain why you were working as a pensions administrator and all of a sudden you decided to switch to something completely different, like picture archiving communication systems administrator, for example. As you see, these are generated professions, yet you have to explain what you could do with this new profession, how you could benefit from your past profession and from your past job, and why this particular job of your past makes you an ideal candidate for this new job as a picture archiving administrator. Quite a challenge. On the other hand, well, of course, there are some connections between these. And abbreviation. As you see, you're about to be given 1 billion, but you have to start the so-called water company, yet you have to call it BED and explain what BED stands for. So you need to explain what the abbreviation stands for, the philosophy, the unique selling point, USP, and of course how you can make it lucrative enough so that business angels are happy. And this is the end of the cycle.